The year is 1066. A thick blanket of snow covers the English countryside, muffling the world in a profound and deceptive silence. It's January, a time when the land should be resting, when people huddle by their fires, telling stories and mending tools, waiting for the thaw. But this is not a year of peace. This is a year that will forever be etched in history, a year of blood, crowns, and conquest. Just a few months ago, these same fields, now white and still, echoed with the sounds of battle. At Stamford Bridge, a brutal and bloody confrontation took place. The fearsome Viking warriors, led by the legendary Harald Hardrada, had crossed the sea with dreams of conquest. They were the heirs of the great Viking age, hardened men who had fought from the frozen north to the warm coasts of the Mediterranean. Their longships had been the terror of Europe for centuries. They met an English army under King Harold Godwinson, a formidable Saxon warrior himself. The fighting was savage, a clash of axes and shields that lasted for hours. The Vikings, caught by surprise and many without their full armor, fought with the ferocity they were famous for. But the English held their ground. The bridge, which gave the battle its name, became a choke point, a place of desperate courage and terrible slaughter. Legend tells of a single, giant Viking berserker who held the bridge alone against the English army, felling man after man until he was finally brought down from below. In the end, the English were victorious. The Viking invasion was shattered. Hardrada, the thunderbolt of the north, lay dead on the field, alongside thousands of his best men. The survivors, a mere handful from the great fleet that had arrived, limped back to their ships, their dreams of an English throne turned to ash. For King Harold Godwinson, it was a stunning triumph. He had faced down one of the most feared armies in the world and won. England, it seemed, was safe. But as the snows of January fall, a different threat is gathering across the narrow channel of water to the south. In Normandy, another man with a claim to the English throne is watching, waiting, and preparing. His name is William, the Duke of Normandy. He is a man of ambition, a ruthless and brilliant military commander. While Harold Godwinson was fighting for his kingdom's survival in the north, William was assembling a different kind of army. This wasn't a band of raiders seeking plunder. This was a meticulously organized force, a true feudal army. At its heart were the knights, the armored fist of medieval warfare. These weren't just soldiers, they were a professional warrior class, trained from birth for one purpose: combat on horseback. Clad in coats of mail, their faces hidden behind the steel plates of their conical helmets, they were the tanks of their day. Their primary weapon was the long lance, held couched under the arm, concentrating the entire momentum of horse and rider into a single, devastating point. A well-executed cavalry charge could shatter an infantry shield wall like glass. Supporting these knights were disciplined formations of infantry. Spearmen trained to form a solid wall of points to repel cavalry, and archers, whose job was to harass and weaken the enemy from a distance. William's army was a combined arms force, a sophisticated military machine that represented the cutting edge of European warfare. He also had the Pope's blessing, a papal banner to fly at the head of his army, turning his invasion not just into a quest for a crown, but a holy endeavor. Back in England, the mood is one of weary relief. The victory at Stamford Bridge was costly. The English army, the famous Anglo-Saxon fired, was exhausted. These were not all professional soldiers like William's knights. Many were farmers and landowners, called to arms to defend their homes. They had marched hundreds of miles north at incredible speed, fought a brutal battle, and now faced the long march south again. Their gear, though effective, was different from the Normans. The core of their army was the Housecarls, elite warriors who fought on foot, wielding the terrifying Danish long axe. An axe that could cleave through a shield, a helmet, and the man wearing it with a single blow. They stood shoulder to shoulder, forming the shield wall, a tactic that had served the Saxons well for generations. It was a wall of wood, steel, and raw courage. It was defensive, stubborn, and incredibly difficult to break. This was the force that had defeated the Vikings. But could it stand against the Norman knights? As we look across this cold, silent landscape, we can almost feel the tension in the air. The winds blowing in from the south carry more than just the chill of the sea. They carry the promise of another invasion, another contender for the throne. Two military doctrines are about to collide. The Anglo-Saxon shield wall versus the Norman cavalry charge. The Danish axe versus the Norman lance. It is a clash of cultures, of technologies, and of destinies. Imagine the English soldier, standing on watch on the southern coast. His breath plumes in the frigid air. He's tired. His muscles ache from the long march and the recent battle. He looks out at the gray, churning waters of the channel, listening. What is he listening for? The whisper of a sail. The creak of oars. He knows that across that water, an enemy is preparing. He doesn't know when they will come, or how many they will be, but he knows they are coming. This period, these quiet months after Stamford Bridge and before the Norman landing, is one of the most dramatic pauses in history. All the players are in position. King Harold in the north, victorious but weakened. Duke William in the south, patient and powerful. The fate of England hangs in the balance, suspended in the cold winter air. The Norman invasion is not just a battle, it's the beginning of the end for Anglo-Saxon England and the birth of a new nation, forged in the crucible of war. The armor and weapons of this era were the products of centuries of evolution. The mail hauberk, worn by both Norman knights and Saxon housecarls, was a significant investment. Each one was made of thousands of tiny, interlocking iron rings, each individually riveted shut. It was flexible, relatively light, and offered excellent protection against slashing cuts. But it was vulnerable to a powerful thrust from a spear or a crushing blow from an axe or mace. The helmets, mostly conical in shape with a nasal bar to protect the face, were designed to deflect blows. Underneath the mail and helmet, a warrior wore a padded garment called a gambeson. This served as both shock absorption and a last line of defense. The kite-shaped shield, long and tapered, was another key piece of equipment, used by both sides, but particularly favored by the Norman cavalry, as it could protect the rider's left side and leg. The logistics of assembling an invasion force like William's were staggering. Thousands of trees had to be felled to build the fleet of transport ships. Blacksmiths worked day and night, forging swords, spearheads, and arrowheads. Barrels of wine, salted meat, and grain had to be gathered to feed the army. Horses, the critical component of the Norman striking power, had to be procured and transported, a difficult and risky operation in itself. William's genius was not just in battle, but in the organization and planning that made the battle possible. The snows will eventually melt. The spring will come, and with it, the campaigning season. The winds will change, and one day, they will fill the sails of William's fleet. The silent fields of England will once again hear the clash of steel. But this time, the outcome will be different. This time, the battle will not just decide who wears the crown, it will decide the language, the culture, and the future of England itself. The Battle of Hastings is still months away, but its seeds are being sown right now, in the bitter cold of a fateful English winter. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey back to 1066 interesting, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the pivotal moments of history. Let us know in the comments what historical event you'd like us to cover next. See you in the next one.